I don't know about you, but I ran in a congressional primary. There were 6 of us running around. We were talking about all the constitutional issues, and I was in that race because I thought the federal spending was out of control.
Right.
And
right.
you guys agreeing with me? I don't know. That worries me.
Say something wrong.
Okay, that's fair enough. The spending starts in Congress, so I thought, well, that's a good place to go. We can affect things there. We can say no. You know, they call the Republican Party the party of no. Well,
that's right.
You know, you're going to call me that. That's what I'm going to be. I mean, you know, if you sent me up there, it would have been bad news. Well, the more I dug into that, and the more I looked at the issues related to federal issues, I found that I'm not sure that the federal government is beyond repair. I don't know that we can find enough good men and women to send there all at one time to turn the tables. I believe that if we could get 30 or 40% turnover in 1 or 2 election cycles, we might be able to make an inroads.
Yes.
And at this point, I'm not sure. But what I do know, we came out of that primary, we came up 40,000 votes short and about $390,000+ short of winning that primary. So what we started looking at is, well, okay, if you think that the federal government's broken and you can't fix it, then where do you go next?
Cambodia.
Well, our states, the way this country was set up was we were 50 states, and those 50 states didn't start out that way, but that's what we are now. They were supposed to be experiments, and you were supposed to have the ability within the state governments to do different things, try different methods of governing, and see what worked best. And you know, if we see something good, we might implement it here. If something doesn't work over there, like I was in the education supply business in the early 90s when Kemper came in, and we had business relationships with people in California, and they said, you people don't want this in Kentucky. It didn't work here. We've lost a whole generation of kids. And they stood up here behind us and said, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and now they're wanting to revise that because it's not working. So I've seen that. Well, the unions will do for this country what the unions did for General Motors, and that's bankrupt them. I don't have a bulletproof vest on today, but I may get one. But the unions are one of the biggest problems we've got. All right. So if you believe that the only thing we've got left to stand against the federal government are 50 governors to states and our state rights, then we need to be getting our states debt-free so they can say no to the federal dollars that have the strings on them that tell you got to teach about this. So we started poking around, looking at the structure of the state government, and we said, you know, this state auditor's office, not very glamorous. Nobody knows what it does. Everybody thinks I can come in and check your public bank account, but I can't do that.
Either.
Pardon me?
She doesn't either.
Who doesn't either?
Crit.
Crit? No, Crit can't do it. She doesn't know what to do with the office?
No.
Okay, well, speaking of Crit, we've had 35 years of Democrat state auditors. We've had 2 Republican governors. So we've had the same party watching over the executive branch of our state government. Crit's been able to generate all these reports on bad things going on in our state because her party knows where all the bodies are buried. So they've got the fox watching the hen house. So I've talked with the couple of the governor candidates here, and I told them, I said, man, I wouldn't want to be sitting in your office without a good conservative AG and a good conservative auditor, because we saw what they did to Ernie Fletcher. Greg Stumbo went after him and carved him up, and he spent 4 years fighting legal battles rather than governing the state of Kentucky.
That's right.
So I think we've got a good chance of getting a Republican conservative governor. And you are fired up today. And so what I want to do with the auditor's office is a little different than what they've done with it in the past. You look at the reports they filed, going back to 1992, our friend Ben Chandler was auditor at that point. He found $900 million worth of waste, fraud, and inefficiency in state government in 1992. Is there somebody who knows what that would be in today's dollar? Well into the billions. Well, our state's running a $1.2, $1.6 billion deficit. We've got an $8.5 billion annual budget, And what I believe we can do is if we can cut that deficit down, if we can just find 10% of our annual budget, that'd be $850 million. In 2 years, we get rid of the deficit. Then we can start working on the unfunded pensions that are going to bankrupt the state caused by the unions. And if we can get this state debt free, we can stand against the federal government when they say, look, right now we're getting $1.51 for every dollar we send to Washington. Well, that's kind of like the drug dealer on the corner saying, I'm going to give you a little sample of this, and it's free. Get you hooked on the federal dollar, and then you can't get off the federal dollar. So how do you stand up to the federal government? If the states are supposed to be independent inside the federal government, you can't do it if all your money's coming. You're plugging your budget holes, you're educating your kids with federal dollars. You can't do it. So we're going to use the auditor's office to get the state debt free. We're going to restructure the state government. We are going to turn over every rock. If you are you know we haven't legalized marijuana yet, right? I love that. But as auditor, you can look at every dime spent in the state, whether it's the University of Kentucky's budget. Up here, Wes Collins has told me about the judicial stonewall we've got where the auditor has not been able to get into the judicial branch, which we're going to work on that because we're going to find out where our tax dollars are going. There's no reason we should be out there working, handing over all our money to them to have them waste it, spend it, make special deals. I've been sitting out in the counties talking to the people in the counties. They know where the contracts are that were rewarded for campaign donations. But if we restructure the state government and cut it down to size, we can get this state debt free, and then we can stand against the federal government. Now, I don't know what standing against the federal government does in the whole scheme of things worldwide, but I tell you what, when you can say no to the drug dealer and the mafia like Frank was talking about, you got to be better off. So we're digging into that stuff now, trying to figure out where the bodies are buried and what's going on. And I'm fully expecting some heavy hitters from the Democrat side because the guy that lives over there in the little house wants to go back for another term, and he doesn't want a Republican digging into his government like they did Ernie Fletcher's. So we need a strong Republican conservative governor. We need a conservative AG and a conservative auditor. We need a AG that'll sue on behalf of the state when the federal government says you will fund this program even if it bankrupts you. We can't do that. And we can't say no unless we're debt free. So that's what we plan to do. And we've got about 15 months, and we're working really hard to get these other folks in November. Because if we don't do a few changes there, we're not going to be able to survive. We got to support Arizona. There's so many things. There's so many things we've got to do, but states' rights are what's going to let us stand against this federal government. So I'm John Kemper. I'm going to sit down and let somebody else get some cheers from you today. Thank you.
Thank you, John.